Today, we're talking about Stratton Violins, and we've been bringing you guys some different manufacturers of violins over the last couple of months and having some conversations with them. Really dig it. Jeff Stratton is a good friend. He's come over and stayed at my house before, and we've had a couple of frosty beverages together. It's been nice. Um, there's the Gypsy model where it sort of looks like a regular violin. Here's a Gypsy model. It looks like a violin from the front, but then you turn it around and whoa, hey, looky there, it's a solid body. So it's got this model, and then we've got the skull, of course, because Jeff kind of noticed, gosh, the cutout shape of a violin sort of looks a whole lot like a skull. And that's like the most metal thing ever. And then we've got some super custom instruments, and we're going to talk about each one of those individually. There are 3 different pickups available on these instruments: a Starfish, a Barbera, and a new pickup. We just started working with somebody. It's an MDS pickup, and it's more of a sort of an electric-y sound. So we've actually got a video that we will play where you can hear each of these 3 pickups. And then there's 2 configurations, 4-string and 5-string, and then fretless and fretted. Don't have any fretted fiddles hanging on the wall right now, but they are available in those configurations. All that to say that we got Jeff Stratton hanging out with us today from his house in his shop in Bulgaria. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, you know what? It's actually cocktail 30 here in Bulgaria. Like they say, like they would say here, Ina Strave in Bulgarian.
See, we're learning stuff already.
You are, yeah, exactly.
It's 10 o'clock at night in Bulgaria right now.
Yeah.
So I want to go through a couple of your different violin designs. Some of the more, I say traditional, like traditional for you. You've got, I think, this was the skull your first design?
No. Actually, I have the first violin.
Ooh.
That the first body I made maybe 20 years ago was a face.
Yo.
And believe it or not, no one would talk to me. You know, it was like one of those things, people were like, nah, that's not our thing. I went around to all these violin shops and no one wanted anything to do with it back then. I mean, this is like maybe 25 years ago. And I never gave up, obviously. And what happened, how the skull violin came about, I can't remember, I told you this, but I started cutting blanks with a CNC, and we screwed up the backside. So the hole was too deep. Like, these holes are now in the right place, but the hole was too deep. So when I went to start carving the violin, I poked holes in it. You know, the wood was too shallow. And I was like, dang, you know, because I had all this wood already cut.
Oh, man.
And that's where the skull violin came from. Basically, I took the face and peeled the skin off, and that's what happened.
So the violins, you can see the detail on these things, just incredible detail on these instruments. So there's the skull instrument there, and then like you can see the teeth and stuff in here. Just, man, these are just, the craftsmanship is incredible.
Thanks.
And you do all this by hand, every bit of this by hand.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, I cut the blanks, you know, I have to cut the blanks by machine. You know, where the cover plate goes, the side reliefs, those need to kind of, this is actually the shape of a full-size violin. So I do use machines, but when it comes to detail, it's all by hand. You know, all the details. And people, I know at one point, you guys have a video, but my wife is a dentist. So this is the secret weapon of detail in the violin.
Like just that view of the drill sticking right in your face is giving me huge anxiety right now.
Yeah, so these are actually what I do, and if you're wondering how I get some of these detail, this is actually a diamond dental burr. Don't buy wood burrs, use the dental. So this is a diamond blade, a diamond burr for actually teeth.
The other one, you've got the Gypsy, the one that's sort of shaped like a violin, and let people see some of the detail in this thing. Just an incredible, incredible looking instrument. If you want something that's traditional-ish, you know, this thing does look like a violin. I mean, they all look like violins, but you know, so you got to open your mind about what a violin looks like. But if you know, this looks more like a traditional sort of, and we call this what, the shipwreck finish. It kind of looks like a.
Yeah, that's a shipwreck. I put the paint on there and sand off the paint and all that. And the point of that violin is, you know, a lot of times you travel around. Like I play the violin. I have an acoustic violin. And I like the shape of the acoustic violin, but I'm also a big fan of these distressed, old looking stuff. I mean, everything I have is, I collect old stuff. I like that distressed look, but I don't like having to deal with the environmental impact of an acoustic violin if you're performing. So this was kind of a go-between. Like I have one of these for myself, and I put heliacord, Diodari heliacors on it. I mean, you hardly have to tune the thing. You know, whether it's damp, cold, hot, whatever, the violin is going to sound exactly like it sounds every time. You know, you don't have those kind of issues. And if somebody attacks you on stage, you can use it as a bat, and you don't have to worry about damaging it because it's, you know, going to hold up.
Does this happen a lot for you?
Maybe back in the day, but that's a long, long, long time ago.
I wish I could say that I've never been attacked on stage, but I totally have. So you've got the skull and the Gypsy, super cool, and now we've got a number of these. I guess we call them super custom or hyper custom instruments.
It's like the next phase of things.
Yeah,
you know, where I'm interested in that kind of thing. You know, so I decided to kind of make a statement with the violins I'm making, other than just people, oh, the skull's cool, oh, the Gypsy's nice, I get it. I like the colors. I like how that looks. So with these new violins, I've decided, okay, well, let's take the art of it to another level and make a statement about it. So that's where this all comes from. You know, so I have this inspiration from daily life or whatever, what's happening in the world. And honestly, the violin for me is just a platform to express art. And besides being able to express an art of like a physical art, it also creates music. So this whole kind of, it's a brilliant thing on its own thing to be able to express whatever you want to express.
Yeah.
And that's the point of these new violins, is like, look, let's take a look at ourselves and let's look at things, and you know, hopefully they'll inspire people to play and create music and create more art.
Absolutely. Well, let's go through some of these individually, and here's one. Here's the headstock on this thing that you guys can see. That what's the headstock design on this?
That is actually, if you look down on the upper bout of the violin, you see like fingers reaching over it.
Yeah.
And that is part of the Tibetan wheel of life.
Okay. I'm going to angle these lights a little.
And I don't have the full thing in front of me. So if you go on the internet and look at this stuff now, one of the things is I have traveled. I've been lucky and fortunate enough to travel all over the world and deal with different cultures. And the most recent is Nepal. But again, it's back 5-6 years ago. And my wife and I and our friends were kind of off the beaten path type travelers. So we never go to tourist traps. We don't do what normal people do. You know, it's a little more difficult, a little more taxing on us, but you see the culture of the people. So the Tibetan culture, which is part of the Nepali culture, you know, because they were exiled from Tibet once the Chinese took over Tibet in, I believe, 1958. The Tibetan, even the Dalai Lama to this day, is living in India. And this is just kind of respect for their culture. And the Wheel of Life is basically showing the transmigration of humanity.
Okay.
And you can look at, I mean, we could talk about this stuff for hours,
Sure.
but you can go online and see that kind of stuff. So if you go online, you can research the Tibetan Wheel of Life, and it explains the symbols on the thing. Buddha, there's a couple Buddhas, but the headstock is significant in the hands, like you can see the fingers on the upper bout of the violin. It's a significant, there's a lot of meaning in that violin.
Yeah, there's so much detail there. It's an amazing piece of art.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll just sort of go through these, and as people have questions, this one kind of broke TikTok. Actually, this was in one of our TikTok videos, and like people went ballistic. It wasn't even supposed to be the point of the video, and everybody's like, forget your little TikTok. Tell us about the Eye Violin.
Yeah. So this violin is from way back in the day of my life as an artist. And I grew up in Kent, the Riot University. And there I was in the art program even in high school. And all my original drawings and sculptures always had eyes in them. And the point of that is the eye, like to look someone in the eye, that's the gateway to the soul, to who people are really. And you know, you can kind of see, you look at people and they look a little shady, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the beauty of people can be seen in their eyes. And that's the point of this violin. It's like, I see you. You know, even it's a way of connecting. Like if you're going to connect with some people, like we always look for people that look us in the eye when they talk. You know, like look at me in my face, look at my eyes. And that's the beauty of human beings. Like no one has, it's like your fingerprints. Your eye is completely one in a bazillion. Like it can't be duplicated. And it's an amazing, magical thing. And that's the point of this violin.
So I want to show people this next one too. We've had this one for a little while, actually, but we just kind of got it set up to where it's ready to go. When these things come in from Jeff, he does all this amazing woodwork, and then he sends us these tail pieces, and then Jamie puts them together and sets them up.
Yeah.
So look at the detail work on this. Holy cow, this thing's amazing. Tell us the story behind this one.
This, I believe, is the royal blood, and this is a statement about how the Native Americans were treated. And I don't know if you can see the red color on there, but that represents a blood shed during that kind of a dark time in American history, and hopefully it doesn't get repeated again. So that is kind of in honor of the Native American people in America.
Yeah, really, really beautiful work here. And I know there's a great story behind this. There's got to be.
This is the plastic baby head violin, and I've had an incredible life. I mean, I have been traveling around the world since 1977, and one of the things, I mean, this violin is making a political statement, kind of.
No way.
One of the things that you find around the world, all over the place, is trash. Like, people throw away plastic and trash and garbage. And one of the things that always caught my eye was the plastic baby parts. They're everywhere. And at one point I was in Thailand, and there was a guy with a little monkey, and they had taken the plastic baby head and cut the eyes out and cut it so they could stick the plastic baby head over the monkey's head. And then they put the monkey on it, put a dress on the monkey, and the monkey was trained to jump up on cars and ask for money. You know, and it's really creepy. You can find this stuff on YouTube. There's a guy that filmed like this monkey with a plastic baby head on it. I even wrote a song, Plastic Baby Head. And this violin is kind of like an environmental conversation. Like, look, you know, the eyes are in the head for like, open your mind. You know, that's where the brain is. You better start using your brain. Open those eyes in your brain and start using it. Because if you don't, humanity's going to get wiped out. And I think now, I mean, I've been working on this violin for over 2 years, you know, because I couldn't get where am I going to put the baby head, the arm, that's like, it's actually looks like a doll. Right. And the paint is damaged on the head. That's how these babies are like. You can see it on the one side. It's all intentional. So you can see, it's more like, even the violin itself kind of has a plasticky feel to it, the eyes, all that stuff. So this violin was like, you know, we need to start like thinking about what we're doing here, folks, because I mean, take the politics out of it. I mean, just look at what the weather's doing around the world.
Yeah, I love that the instrument is a piece of art that an artist can use to make more art with. You know, the instrument's making a statement, and the artist can make a statement also.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about it. That's why I like creating this kind of stuff, is because somebody will pick up that violin and make music, and, you know.
Come with 3 different pickups that we work with, right? And before we talk about any of these, I want people to have a chance to hear them. So I've got 3 videos back to back, instead of me like picking these things up, set them down, or whatever. Yeah. I'll just play the video. Here we go. So, all right. So I think if I were going to describe these pickups when people ask, we talk about the Barbera pickup, Everybody knows about the Barbera pickup. You know, it's this big beefy monster. It's got two pickup elements under each string, so 4-string or 5-string in your case. They've got a fat, thick, like freight train coming down the road type sound.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Rich for quite a long time, like from way back in the day, and they sound great. And again, I can't, you know, I don't pass judgment on it, whether it's good or bad or one thing or the other. It's just, where does the artist want to go with it?
Right.
You know, that's my deal.
Yeah, that's sort of, you know, people say, what's the best pickup? I'm like, it's like asking me what the best pizza is. I don't know. What are you in the mood for?
No best pickup. I mean, what violin do you have next?
So yeah, I've got the Starfish here. And comparing the Starfish to the Barbera, I feel like it's not as bottom heavy. I feel like it's more balanced and maybe a little clearer. It doesn't have as much thickness, but I feel like it's maybe a little more woody sound. Is that something? Does that sound?
I mean, I mean, if I had one issue with the Starfish pickup, it would be aesthetic, not by the sound. I just don't like the combination of the wood, personally. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It's just, I mean, if you're going to make a maple pickup, then put maple cover plates on the thing. It's more violin-y. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
That's my only issue.
And the honest truth is you could paint it. You know, if you wanted to paint this thing, you could. You know, people paint Barberas all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good pickup. I mean, it sounds good. You can, you know, you can do whatever you want with it. It holds up well. It's great.
And we'd actually done a couple of videos comparing Barbera to Starfish, and the Barbera is generally a little louder. Starfish is generally not quite as loud, but what I do with a Barbera is I actually back my volume off a little bit on the volume knob because it sweetens that sound up. Barberas can get a little bitey if they're wide open. So I feel like that sort of minimizes that volume difference a little bit.
Yeah.
The next pickup we've got is somebody you just started working with. This is called an MDS pickup, and it looks a little more like some of the MIDI pickups that we've seen from different manufacturers out there. This is actually a passive pickup, believe it or not, where some of the other ones are active.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the game changer for me in this pickup. Is once the passive thing happened, I was like, wahoo. Yeah, I like it. I mean, for me, it's a little bit easier to get an acoustic sound out of it than the other pickups.
It's like there's more, like there's a sharper edge around the edge of each note. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you know what? I like that. And with the sharper tone, I think it's going to be a little easier for semi-professional players to deal with it, to have more of an acoustic, to have a little bit more control over what they sound like. But it's a great bridge.
I think, you know, we're going to get to the point where I think electric violinists are going to become like guitar players. They're just going to own a bunch of different ones. And that's why there are different ones. Guitar players going to own a Telecaster.
Absolutely.
And so I think this MDS is more like a Telecaster sound, and your Barbera is more like a Les Paul type sound. Yeah. Does that make sense?
You know what? Honestly, the MDS is kind of like the Telecaster. You know, it's got that kind of vibe to it. You know, and it's a great vibe. I mean, the only guitar I have is a Telecaster. You know, and I love that sound. And I'm not going to detract from anybody else's deal, but that's just the deal. That's just how it is. And I think the industry, the electric violin industry, is eventually going to go that way. Oh, I have a Tele. I'm going to play my Tele tonight. I'm going to play my Les Paul. I'm going to play my Strat or my Gretsch or whatever. kind of I think the electric violin industry is kind of in an expansion. It's this option of the bridges needs to expand as well. You know, you need to have like more of an option. Well, I'm after this, I'm after that. And for a professional player to have that kind of choice and to be able to see and have the resource of the electric violin shop to put out videos, to explain things, to talk about stuff, do live feeds, it's awesome. You know, it's like, and personally, I think the electric violin industry is still in its infancy.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I sort of compare it to where the electric guitar business was in the 50s.
Yeah, we're in the beginning.
I'll say that the volume on that MDS bridge is it's in that range of where a Barbera that's backed off a little bit and a Starfish, the MDS, they're right in that level. So if you had all three of these bridges, so that you'd have like your Les Paul and your Telly, and then if the Starfish is more like a PRS or something, if you've got those three instruments for three different colors of sound, you're not going to have to do a whole lot of adjustment on volume on stage.
No.
You're going to be able to go back and forth. I do appreciate you meeting with us. Thanks for meeting us during Cocktail 30, and man, these instruments are so beautiful.
Oh, thanks, man.
And you know, the prices on these are in the sort of the roughly $6,000 range. But these are all handmade, one of a kind pieces of art. This isn't like the thing that you just go down and buy one and you meet somebody tomorrow who's got one just like it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Beautiful Stratton violins. You can find these on our website, electricviolinshop.com. And we will see y'all next week.